Hey yo, Toad here. Yeah, I got the camera pointed in a slightly different direction this time because, quite frankly, I'd probably put it on the computer, but I'm not going to dignify this news story we're going to talk about a little bit. But let's just say the source of the news starts with the letter Y and ends with a who. And the title of this news story is U.S. Post Office cuts. Let me just start that over again. U.S. Post Office cuts threaten source of black jobs. You know, threatened source of black jobs. First of all, I didn't know there was any job designation by the U.S. government for black folks. Certainly didn't know that if they did exist, they were in the post office. Uh, I find that, frankly, offensive. Personally, I think that's a racist thing in and of itself. And this is a Reuters story, so the meat of the story is that because the U.S. Post Office is losing money hand over fist. I mean, it's no joke. They give the numbers in the story, but we're talking billions. In fiscal year 2012, according to the story, the U.S. Postal Service lost $15.9 billion. That's your dollars, okay? Your money. Money that could have been used somewhere else, even if it was to buy toilet paper in the Pentagon. At least it would have been useful, but it was wasted. Now, let me just say right off the bat, I am one of these people that believes that it's time to privatize the U.S. Postal Service. Now, I understand, tradition and everything else, but the system's a dinosaur. You can say, well, it's because we didn't spend money on it, we didn't do this, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm not even going to debate that with you beyond to say my opinion is that's not true. What has killed the U.S. Post Office, in my opinion, is twofold. First and foremost is electronic communications. Nobody is going to, very few people are going to handwrite or type a letter, buy a stamp, fold it up, put it in an envelope, lick the stamp, put the stamp on it, and put it out in the mailbox. That just is not the way American society communicates on a personal level as a majority anymore. It's not even close. Between instantaneous cell phone communications, electronic mail, everything from Skype to MSN Messenger, pick your poison. The bottom line is it's almost, I can't think of anything that hasn't, in the technological world, all the advances that have been made in the last, say 20 years, haven't been a gigantic nail in the coffin to letter writing and what we call snail mail correspondence. And the other thing is, when it comes to packages, even though the flat rate boxes are actually pretty good in a lot of ways, not only do you have one company out there competing with the post office for small packages, but you've got, UPS, FedEx, DHL, and I'm probably going to miss a couple of them, and plus local couriers in larger cities, they have local couriers that run documents back and forth. And I don't know about y'all, typical middle-aged, middle-class dude, the only thing that comes in my mailbox is junk mail and legal mail, which I think is probably the biggest reason why privatizing the post office would be a tough thing, because we have, as a country, the post office has been folded into our legal system as a legal form of communications. kind of like, there's certain things you must publish in a local newspaper before you can legally proceed with some things. So, you know, the post office has problems. But when I saw this news story, the gist of the entire thing is, I mean, they even say that the reason that part of the reason there's a lot of black folks that work for the post office is because it was a place where educated black folks could go back in the day. They're talking like the turn of the century, post Civil War times, where discrimination was less. Okay, I think that's a buggy whip argument personally, but now they're complaining that these are jobs that evidently a large amount of black folks hold. In fact, they even gave some numbers. One of the things being that supposedly the post office is the second largest civilian civilian employer in the United States, behind Walmart, and there's 536,000 people who work for the Postal Service. And, they say the Postal Service is all self-funded, and they're blaming it on pre-funding requirements enacted by Congress in 2006 that require to make annual payments of $5.5 billion in health benefits for future retirees. I suppose I would have to wonder if that's changed with the recent healthcare change, which I'm not going to go into. But, the bottom line is they're saying that the post office is losing $25 million a day, and they need to cut back. And evidently there's a rather high, by somebody's estimation, in the amount of black folks that work. And I'm not going to get any deeper into the numbers and everything, except to say that even in reading this, I guess this is just really, really tough. They say that black folks make up 20% of the workforce in the post office, and if I remember right, the black population percentage overall is like 14%. So I guess statistically there's a little higher blip of numbers. But the point really isn't it doesn't matter what color you are if you're going to get laid off because a company is going bad. And this article, starting with its title, goes all the way through, and it basically says, it makes a case to make black people think that they're being targeted because the post office is going down the tubes. This sounds to me like race baiting. This sounds like trying to motivate a race to get involved with stopping the post office from going under. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter what race you are. If you're doing bad business and people don't want to do business with you because they don't want to part with their money for a substandard service, that's just the way it is. That is just the way it is. And for Reuters, repeated by that one that starts with an H and ends with a who, for Reuters to write an article that is this blatantly, in my mind, racist and race baiting, to me is below any journalism standard. If this title said that 500,000 people, a certain percentage, are going to be in jeopardy for their employment because the post office is going to have to cut back, then that'd be fine. That would mean Americans are going to lose their jobs because the post office sucks and can't compete in the real world with the rest of the information transfer industry. I'm sorry, but if they had said Americans are getting hurt, that would have been okay. It still would have bit a little bit, because it's not like you can vote people into doing business with you. You can't vote for a change in how people spend their money. People are going to spend their money so they get the best value for their dollar. And if you can't provide that value, you're going to go down. It's just that simple. But because they had to bring race into it, because they had to talk about how many people, 20% are black. What about the 80% that are white? I guess we can't talk about that. So the whole idea of this article, in my mind, was to race bait black folks into getting upset because a job that they have 20% of may go away. But who are they going to get mad at? UPS? Shameful. Absolutely shameful.